Let me ask about, we're talking about education. Every parent, if they're a good parent, should be concerned about education. You have 5 children. Not all of them are in school right now, but the ones that are, what's your philosophy on education? Were they in public school? Were they, how's it going with them?
They've been in everything basically. They've been in DoD schools overseas. They've been in public schools, and now they're in charter schools. And we're just trying. Well, when you're overseas, there's not really much you can do. They have to go to DoD schools or get homeschool. And then when we were stateside, we did public schools for a little bit and didn't really enjoy that. And so we looked into our options, and that's how we settled with charter schools. And our kids were in charter schools in Georgia. And then since we moved to Michigan, they've been in charter schools here.
Okay, and for some people who don't know, your family, kind of a military family, so you were overseas because of that.
Yep.
Okay, good to be here in Michigan. You're from Michigan, though, so it's good to be back home, I guess. Okay, so and explain what is a charter school in your definition? I know I have, lots of people don't even understand what a charter school is. It's a school. It's a regular school, right?
Yeah, it's publicly funded, and like that's a huge misconception. People think that it's a private school, but it's not. It's open to the public. It's just like any other school. You just get into the school, you apply. Some of them have waiting lists, some of them don't. Like when we came here, we didn't have a waiting list. We got in right away. Where Georgia, we had a year waiting list to get in, and it's just a normal school. It's publicly funded, but I think that for our view on a charter school is parent involvement is a lot better than public schools, and parents have more of a say in that.
In his charter schools, I've met people that go to different ones. Don't some of them specialize in certain things?
Yeah.
Like, explain that, because I met some kids that are more of an art school, more engineering, right? It's specialized to the kid.
Yeah, so ours, the one that my kids are currently at, is not anything specialized. Like I don't think they're really specialized in anything, but they have in Georgia was a science one, so it's more of like everything's based around science, more of like even math and stuff. They're doing science activities with it.
Oh.
I think they had an art one too, like a drama one down there, but my kids were at the science one.
They're more in the South. I used to live in Alabama for about 3 or 4 years, but I forgot. I didn't have kids then, so I didn't even look into it. But were there a lot of choices for education down there?
So where we were in Georgia, they don't have like Michigan where they have school of choice where you can just bring your kids to different schools. Where Georgia, you have to go in your zone, and if you don't, you have to pay taxes out of that the county. So the military base was on like a county line, and a lot of parents wanted their kids to go to the school a little bit north because their houses were there, and they had to pay money to go there because that's where their tax money was not going to. But the charter school there, we could put our name on the wait list, and it was such a long list because it was so close to the base. We waited, I think it was a year to get in there, and our kids got in there.
Jeez.
Yeah.
Okay, so they've been in charter schools in Michigan 2-3 years, or how long has it been?
3.5 years they've been in charter school here.
You like it? Everything's good?
Love their charter school. Charter school's great.
Okay, so I posted on Facebook that the Michigan has a state board of education, and they want to step up oversight of charter schools, and just have more of a hands-on with charter schools. But they already have, charter schools can't just do what they want. They have to follow certain guidelines. And I'll play a soundbite from one of the state board. Well, let me play this now. You got a second?
Yeah.
I think you should be able to hear this. Let me play this. It's like 40 seconds. It's a state board of education member.
I have a community that has a school that's struggling, and it may be struggling, but if 2 charter schools open across the street and down the street, the unintended consequence is to decimate the neighborhood, because they come out of there's gifts, enroll and get a tablet, or an iPad. And so now the kids that was basically living and operating in a school system that may go up, may have not, but the insertion without oversight of another school in that struggling neighborhood splits that neighborhood, and operating in the fashion that they do, that is how you destroy a neighborhood.
Yeah, and that's his take, destroying a neighborhood. You haven't seen that, have you?
No, I haven't seen that.
You would think, and I'm a little maybe biased when I say this, but I believe in, school choice, and you should have the choice of what you do. How important is that not to be locked in? Because in Georgia, apparently, you said people were locked in, but how important is it to have just choice?
It's very important, because if a school is struggling, I don't want my kids in a school that's struggling, that's not getting better because of government not doing anything to improve it. Where a charter school, I feel, if you don't like it, you take your kid out, and that's their money. Like, they're going to close down if parents don't like it. If it's not a good charter school, it's going to close. Where public school is not going to be like that.
And that's a lot of the argument. I don't know. You haven't lived in Florida, have you at all?
No, my husband's from Florida, but I haven't lived there.
Florida has, I think, complete school choice. However, I think the kids can go wherever they want, but what it makes it's all the schools are kind of competing with each other, which means they all need to step up their game. There's a lot of people in Michigan that are trying to get that because they think if every school's trying their best, it will up all of them. Does that make sense?
Exactly how I feel, because our kids, our charter school here, I think they're number 2 in the state of Michigan for, I don't know where it was for, but they outperform all schools in the area. The only school that don't outperform, she said, was East Grand Rapids, and that is a huge school. And but everybody else, they are above all of them and everything. And she said for 14 years, they've surpassed all of them.
Wow. Okay. What about, and you've probably heard people since you've been in Michigan, last couple of years, homeschooling. So many. Do you know anyone that does that?
I know so many people that homeschool. I know
Really?
that out of school to homeschool. My really good friend actually has never done any public schools. She's only done homeschooling. I had a couple of friends here that pulled their kids out of school during COVID and ended up homeschooling them and haven't turned back.
Wow. Why do you think? Why is that?
I think because public schools are failing and they're just getting worse and worse and nothing's being done about it, and the kids are just being passed along. And I think that parents are sick of it and they just don't want their kid to be passed along. They want them to be held accountable. If the kid's not learning, the teacher should be held accountable. Where I think kind of the teachers unions kind of protect those a little bit in public schools, where charter schools don't have that.
Now, charter schools, and I'm still learning about all of this. You don't pay a tuition, right?
Nope, we don't pay anything.
So it's, and then they still have to go by, I think, state guidelines and so forth. So the Board of Education, I think a lot of them were speaking out that they feel threatened by charter schools. And part of this legislation that they want would limit the amount of charter schools, but it shouldn't be about, and I'm speaking on maybe your behalf and others, but it shouldn't be about it being threatened, right? It should be about the child.
I just don't understand why they're saying that, because parents aren't pulling their kids out of public schools just to pull them out. There's a reason why they're picking charter schools over public schools. There's a reason there. And it's not more convenient. We don't have busing, so parents are held accountable for picking up kids and dropping them off. They don't have after school programs like public school, so parents are also responsible for that. So it's not a convenience thing. There's a reason why they're pulling them out of public schools.
Yeah, so you're saying if the education was great, everything was fine, there would not be a need for charter or homeschooling or private schools.
Yeah.
And I know you're from Michigan. Michigan's gone up and down in different changes. And should they just, this upset a lot of people when they heard this. And I sent you the article about it as well. Some people are saying they should just stay in their lane, obviously, because there's already oversight of charter schools. They can't just do what they want, but this would try to limit them in the state of Michigan. So you're saying that's not a good thing.
I think that they should stay in their lane. I think that the government shouldn't get involved. They're already involved like enough. And I think that them coming in and telling charter schools they can't do this is going to upset a lot of people, because there's a reason they pulled them out of those public schools, because they're doing better in the charter. They like the charter better. They should look at the public schools. Why are so many people, and especially in the state of Michigan, homeschooling their kids and taking their kids out of public schools? There's a reason.
Your kids were never in public school, or no, they were?
Public school in Georgia. And then when we moved up to Michigan, my twins went to preschool in public school, because they didn't have because our charter schooling starts from young 5s to 8th grade.
And you've noticed well, I mean, it's hard to compare, I guess, because of the ages, but you noticed a difference.
Definitely noticed a difference, because when my kids went to the public school, that's the only where they could go. They said when I moved them to the charter school, they said they don't need to go to young 5s. You know, if they have summer birthdays, they said because they went to preschool, they should be all set. They should know the basics. Well, after about a month and a half, they said they don't know the basics. They said they're not ready for this. and they said they should have been and put in young fives. But the school told me that no, once they go to preschool here, they're good to go. They don't need to go young fives, but they actually did because they're behind. Even like that early, they're behind.
That's dangerous because you do not want them behind. I have a 6-year-old and 11-year-old, and once they get behind, I mean, that's what happened with COVID as well. And with the charter schools, really, they need to perform well because parents could leave and then that money would go away. So they know what's going on because they want to step up because you could leave.
Yeah, that's exactly how I see it too. Like, and I see the charter schools with wait lists, like the one in Georgia, for a year. What, like, there's people. Why do they want to wait a year to get their kid in there? There's a reason. It's because it's a good school. And I feel like even here at our charter school, my son does Science Olympiad, and he competes all over the state of Michigan. Well, the public school here didn't offer that, and they're for Science Olympiad now. They were #1 in their division. This tiny little charter school beat these massive public schools here. And every round they've done so far, they've become in first place.
Wow. Congratulations. If you would have stayed in public school, that may have never it wouldn't have happened.
No, and then I noticed that the public school by our house, they don't even offer the Science Olympiad. There's a couple in the area, but not like we're close to vicinity to us.
They should, because the public schools, they are getting a lot of money.
Yeah. In our tiny charter school, they have to fund it. So this year, there's their biggest involvement of Science Olympiad. I think they had 35 kids this year that want to compete in it. Well, they only get set aside $2,000 for it. Well, then the kids came up with the money for it. The families did. We all did the funding for it. So it's a group effort for everything.
Wow.
Yeah.
I'm 49 years old. I don't ask a lady her age, but you grew up in Michigan. When you were a kid, I don't even remember. I was in Metro Detroit. I just went to where my mom told me to go to school. Did we have charters? We didn't really have options really much, but did we back then? Private schools, I know.
Single charter school by mine, that's the only one I ever heard of. But like compared to, I'm in for 12 years. From then to now, it has gotten huge. There's so many. I feel like it has definitely grown.
One of my last questions: should this give school officials, like the man who just spoke,
have a community that?
Let me stop that. But the man who spoke in the video, all these people around this table, I think one of them voted against this resolution. The rest of them, some of them want to basically eliminate charter schools. The people around this table, some of them do eliminate it as to how we know it today. Should they shouldn't they want to join in? Because it should be about what's best for the kid. I know I know it's not right. That's not what happens, but it should be.
Yeah, it definitely should be. And they should look at it too. Like our kids at the charter school, they're testing higher than the public schools. Shouldn't that be another thing? Like, oh, they are doing better. What are they doing better than this public school that's getting an insanely amount of money compared to the charter school?
Now that you bring that up, I have my other computer here, and it just shows me that screen that, yeah, studies show, all the studies here typically find students enrolled in charter schools, especially low income and minority students, perform academically better than their peers in district run schools. Is there smaller class size? Does the staff care more? What is it about a charter? Is it more of like a family environment kind of?
I feel like it's a community. That's I do, because like each grade at ours has about 90 kids per grade, and they're all in one single building. It's just basically like a V shape, and it goes from K or young fives all the way to 8th grade. They're all in one single building, and so there's about, I guess, 90 kids per grade. So I know the staff very well. I know all the teachers, even if my kid doesn't have them as a teacher, my kids talk about them. So I'm like, oh, I know who that person is. And then the teachers are doing the drop off and the pickup, so you see them constantly opening your car doors. You get to know them really quick. And it's more of a sense of community, where when my kids were in public school in Georgia, it was very like, you can't come here without an appointment. You're not invited to any class parties, things like that. It was very kind of door thing. And they're like, you're always welcome, but you weren't always welcome. We're here. They want you to be there. They want you to be involved. You should be in the class. You should be doing all this stuff with them.
You're on the west side of the state. How far are you from Grand Rapids, like the city itself?
Just like 10 minutes.
Okay. And this happened let me bring up this article on the screen. Grand Rapids, they closed 10 schools recently.
Yeah.
So I bring this up because you would think parents like yourself and the homeschool parents, when will Michigan lawmakers and people realize something needs to change? Because that's a lot of schools to be closing.
Well, obviously they're not, because they're seeing these closing right now and they're against the charter schools. The opposite's what they shouldn't be against, in expanding, and they want to close them down, which is insane.
Yeah, that's why I wanted to bring light to it and have a parent who, because a lot of people don't understand maybe what a charter school is. I know, like, I went to a Catholic school when I was a little kid, kindergarten through 8th grade. My mom put me in one, and it was a great experience. I got in more trouble there, probably because there was a nun keeping a close eye on me. But yeah, I think people don't understand always charter school, what it is. And some people, I think someone said, I'm not paying for a private school. It's not a private school.
No, it is very different, like, to understand. But once you like see it, you're like, wow, this was an option the entire time. And then you're like, dang, I should have been doing this a long time ago.
Yeah, and they should make it then where the public schools should want to compete and step up their game.
Yeah, that's for sure. They should. I think that actually knew the charter schools were free, that all the things that they offered, smaller class sizes, more sense of community, I think more people would want that.
You would think, and hopefully one day it'll be a wake-up call before thousands and thousands of more parents leave the state. And like you said, people who have taken their kids out and just done the homeschool thing.
Yeah, I know actually a lot that have done that. And like, if my kids weren't in charter school, we've talked about that, putting them, just homeschooling them.
Really? The public schools, in your opinion, are not that great that you'd be willing maybe even to do that?
Now, I don't like the schools here, and I'm glad that we have charter schools as an option. I'm very happy with it.
Gotcha. Okay, well, I appreciate you going on educating people, because my goal is just to spend a little time and let people know what's going on, because some people have no clue if they've never done anything or been in charter schools. So I appreciate it.
Thank you so much.